Hello. In this video, I'm going to be going over a beginner level cybersecurity course. I'm going to go over building a security operations center or SOC within an AWS environment. And this is going to be 100% practical, hands-on, and it's going to teach you a lot of the basic concepts of cybersecurity, but in an applied way. Now, this security operations center is insecure, so I'm going to go over how it's insecure. That way you have a better understanding of different concepts and also how they can go wrong. If you're studying for the CompTIA Security Plus or the CYSA Plus, this is a fantastic lab to do. And if you complete it and understand all of the concepts, you're going to be ahead of probably 99.9% of people. I also really want to thank the Security Onion team, as I would not have been able to figure this out without them. Let's first start off. What is a security operations center, and what exactly does a security analyst or SOC analyst do? This is pulled from the MITRE 11 strategies of a world-class security operations center, which I'll leave below. But essentially, a SOC analyst is going to collect, analyze, and store anywhere from millions to billions of different types of events. Now, what exactly is a security event? So a security event is basically anything that happens on that environment that you're in, whether a user account is created, someone is trying to access a file share, a firewall is blocking a connection. Events don't necessarily mean that anything bad is happening or indicate good or bad behavior. And an event doesn't indicate good or bad behavior. So that's when alerts come in. So in contrast, alerts are used to reference an event that is generated with implication that it may be a potential attack, which is where intrusion detection systems and SIMs come through. So as a security operations center analyst, you're going to be going through alerts and you're going to be sorting through true positives and false positives to see if this potential alert is actually a malicious attack. In order to set up this security operations center within AWS, we're going to use a thing called Security Onion. Security Onion is a Linux distribution and it has intrusion detection, network security monitoring, and also log management. And by setting this up within AWS, you're creating a cloud-based network security system that can monitor network traffic and also host level traffic, check for suspicious activity, and provide valuable logging information for that. Let's get started with setting up the Security Operations Center in AWS by going over an overview of this insecure attack and detection lab. For an overview of this cybersecurity course for beginners by building out a Security Operations Center or SOC in AWS, we're going to create an insecure environment. We're going to create a virtual private cloud in AWS. This is also called a VPC. And you can basically do anything that you need to learn as a SOC analyst in Security Onion. We're going to build out a Windows server, a Linux machine, and forward cloud trails into Security Onion and do log ingestion for that. And then from there, you can do lots and lots of things, which I'll go over later on at the end of the video. This you would never see in a production environment. I simplified a lot of things just to make it super easy to understand as someone coming from a beginner kind of level mindset. Now that we have an overview of what exactly you're going to be doing, the very first step when building out the Security Operations Center is you're going to need to create an account with AWS. Now they do have a free tier right here, so you can gain free hands-on experience with the AWS products and services, and everything here is within AWS to just simplify things right here. And so once you have created that account, now you're going to be logged into something called the AWS Console Home. But you can play around with this a little bit. You're going to see all of these services. You're never going to use all of these. That is an absolutely insane amount. Most people only know 10 or like 20 services. You don't need to do any of that. Another really important thing to know about AWS is the billing and cost management. If we just go here, or you can just type in billing up here at these services, you're going to see that it does cost money. Now, because you're probably on the AWS free tier, you don't really have to worry about that too much right now. I would try to complete this within 30 days though, because sometimes those can get a little crazy. If you forget to turn off your electricity, but you're not using it, you're still going to get charged. Same concept is here. If you leave a lot of your virtual machines on or your compute power, you're going to get charged for it. And these can be into like the thousands of dollars. So don't be me and make sure to turn off your services. All right, so now that we have a brief overview of AWS for this cybersecurity lab, now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a virtual private cloud within AWS. Now that sounds so complicated, but AWS has basically abstracted networking, which is absolutely amazing. And so you don't really need to know all of the nitty-gritty of routers and switches for this aspect of security. So what we're going to do is we're just going to type in VPC at the top virtual private cloud. And essentially this is your own virtual network dedicated in an AWS account, and you can have your own private data center in here, and you can control various aspects of the network, such as selecting your IP address range. You can do subnets, private, public, configuring route tables and gateways and all of that. So you can get a lot of good hands-on experience just by playing around with VPCs. What you want to do is you want to delete that VPC. It'll probably be a 172, and then you're going to want to create a new VPC up here. So you're going to create a VPC, and then you're going to ensure that you choose VPC more. This is important because you're going to need subnets. The tag isn't that important. And then you're going to have an IP for CIDR block. And so for this instance, we're just going to put 124. All right, and that's all you have to do at this part. You can leave everything else as default. Then we're just going to click that. And then now we have a new VPC. So you're going to go back to VPC, and you are going to have it 100.0.124 right here. I'm going to rename it Project Security Onion. So then I can keep track of this later on. This naming convention is important. Now the next step we're going to do is we're going to launch the EC2 instance. If you don't know what an EC2 instance is, it's essentially a virtual machine hosted within AWS. So think about it as a computer outsourced. So you're just going to type in EC2 right here, and then you're going to go to launch instance. And then here you're going to name it Security Onion. Now we have the application and OS image. This is cool because you can set up basically almost any operating system except for Windows 10 within AWS. And then you're just going to search for it right here and then press enter. And then you just are going to select this. And then this is the AMI information. This is really important because it shows you the pricing. It shows you the operating system it's using. So now it's CentOS. So it was Ubuntu and now it's not. It also tells you exactly how you can utilize the Security Onion. You can aggregate your platform logs for a comprehensive security focused view. It's also free, except when you put it into AWS, and it's built by defenders for defenders, and it includes a lot of really cool things. So network visibility, host visibility, intrusion detection system, honeypots, log management, case management. They offer signature-based detection via Suricata, rich protocols, file extraction, and all of that. So you can learn everything you need to know about security and Security Operations Center on Security Onion. Next, you're going to see the pricing right here, and this is how much it's going to cost. So the more that you use, the more you're going to get charged. And also remember, this is only per hour that you are using it. Make sure to turn off the instance when you're not using it. Think about it as electricity. If you leave it on, it's utilizing electricity. And then you have the usage right here and all of the really good information. So you're always going to want to look at the documentation. In the real world, documentation is basically you can learn how to set it up in AWS from this. You can also find default usernames and passwords within this documentation. So right here it says see accounts, So then you're going to see different types of accounts they have and different passwords for this interface. There's SO status. So right here, you can see SO status to check on the security onion services and all of that. All right, and then we're just going to choose that, and then it already includes the instance types, so it's 2x large. The key pair is where it gets a little tricky. What you're going to notice is this RSA token, we're just going to leave that the same. And then you're going to see the private key file format. It's going to be .pem and .ppk. If you are on a Mac, you're going to use the .pem. If you are on a Windows, like I am right now, you're going to use the ppk, and then you're going to log in with PuTTY. There is a way to utilize the .pem for Windows, in which case you have to go to Windows and then you have to download OpenSSH for Windows, which you can see right here. For simplicity's sake, we are just going to use the PPK key and then create key pair. And then as you can see, it should be in your download file. I'm going to go to my download and I'm just going to bring it to my desktop so then I don't lose it. All right. And then I'm just going to continue. So the key pair, ensure that. And then for the network settings, you're going to see several things. Number one, it's the VPC. So make sure this is that VPC that you utilized and created in the first one. So as you can see, I have 2 VPCs. You want to make sure it's the correct one. Next, you're going to see this subnet is in the private one. What I am going to do is I'm going to change it to the public one. And you're going to want to put everything within the same subnet. If you start putting things in different subnets, it's going to get really confusing, and then you're going to have some advanced networking skills to troubleshoot this, and it's going to be a pain. Putting everything in a public subnet is actually incredibly insecure. You're never going to do this in a production environment. A public subnet is a network that has direct access to the internet through an internet gateway. Now, in the real world, you're never actually going to put everything on a public subnet because it's very, very insecure. Usually what you would have is a private subnet, which you can't directly reach through the internet, and then you would configure something called network address translation. And this would let you have outbound internet access through a secure communication like a VPC or a pairing VPN for inter-network connectivity. If you are wanting to set up this SOC lab securely, then you would want to look more into how you would do that within AWS. For the auto-assign public IP, you're going to want to ensure that this is disabled. Now, for the security group, you're going to just want to keep the security group the same, and then later on, we're going to go and change those security groups. A lot of issues are going to be because you don't have the correct security groups. There are tons of roles where you would actually only be dealing with security groups and networking things like this. Keep that in mind. Also, we're going to want to add a security group role, and where we're going to put this all traffic, and then the source type is going to be MyP, and then your IP address is going to stay right here. Next, we're going to go to advanced network configuration. Now, you only see one network interface right here. You're going to want to have 2 different network interfaces. And that is because the security onion has a management, which you are going to log on to the console, and you want that to be separate than from your monitoring or sniffing, because that one's going to have more lax security group rules. All right, and then for the storage, you're going to want 256. They already chose it for you. This may change. So if you get an error saying that you can't utilize this, then all you have to do is just change the storage right here. For the advanced details, just leave that here. Summary, you're only going to want to have 1 instances. And then you're just going to launch instance there. All right. And so that concludes the first part where we launched an EC2 instance for Security Onion, which is fantastic. Now, the second part to complete this is you're going to want to associate an elastic IP address to the management network interface. You're not going to want to do this for the whole instance because you have 2 interfaces here. So what you are going to do is you're going to go to this network and security and elastic IPs. So as you can see, I actually have 3 IP addresses here, but if you wanted a new one, you would just click allocate elastic IP address. You would choose Amazon's pool of IP4. You would leave that the same, and then you would just choose allocate. And then here, I'm just going to put project SO. All right, now I'm going to go back to the instances. I'm going to choose instance ID. I'm going to scroll down to the networking aspect, and then I'm going to notice that I have 2 descriptions right here. What you have to do is you have to click this, and then you have to go to actions, and then you have to associate elastic IP address. So that's sometimes something you have to do. And then right here, you're going to see resource type. You want to make sure you are choosing network interface. And then you will have a few network interfaces. And so how do you know which one is which? A lot of people mess up or choose the wrong network interface right here. So really make sure that you're choosing the correct one. We have to go back to EC2 instances, and then you're going to see security onion, and then go to networking. And then as you can see, you have the interface ID, and you're going to want to rename this something that you're going to remember it. So this is the management, and you're going to have the instance ID, and then we are looking for the network interface, which is right here, B26. And now you have it B26B, so make sure you choose the right one. Choose a private IP address. Allow this IP address to be reassociated. And so now we are going to associate it. All right, there we have that. Now that this IP address has been associated with this network interface, not the instance, we're going to go back to the EC2 dashboard, and then we are going to look at the instance ID. Now, as you can see, it now has a public IP4 address. It also has a public IP4 DNS. It's on a public subnet is something you should look for. And then you're going to go to networking, and then you're going to notice that this management one also has a public IP address. So they don't both have it, which is awesome. All right, and then that concludes the installing of Security Onion and then associating an elastic IP address. All right, now that you've launched your instance, now we're going to want to be able to log in our instance so we can set up the Security Onion. Basically for this, what we are going to do is this is going to be different on a Mac and it's going to be different on a Windows. So I'm going to demonstrate the Windows for this specific example. I'll also link a way to do this on a Mac on a different example. If you remember, in the instance that we launched, you had a key pair and then you downloaded it. This was a PPK file. So now what we're going to do is we are going to change the host file so then we're able to log in and set it up. All right, so you are going to want to go to search and then type in PuTTY on a Windows machine. If you don't have PuTTY, you can download the Windows Store. And what you're going to do here is you are going to go to session, and then you're going to type in the IP address. And you find the IP address right here. And I'll move this. I'm just going to type in 44.252.30. And then I'm going to go down to connection, and then I'm going to go to SH and that plus sign, and then auth credentials. And here I'm going to browse, and then I'm going to upload that PK file private key. Now I'm just going to click open. Here I'm just going to accept. And all right, now you're going to want to log in as. You have to log in as Onion, and this is the default name and user for Security Onion. This will be different for every Linux distro, and you usually find this within the documentation. Alternatively, if you go back to the instances to find this, you can go to the instance ID, connect, and then you can EC2 instance right here. It says the username is root. Sometimes, in most cases, this is the default is correct, but oftentimes you have to use Onion or Ubuntu because it won't allow you to log in with root. And so now I'm just going to press enter. Now it says it's authenticating with the public key. And now it will bring up the setup. So we are just going to continue from here. I'm going to click yes. And then for this part, the installation, I'm going to put standalone and then type in agree. And then for the host name, I'm just going to name it project SO, enter. All right, so since this is a network install, we assume that the management interface, DNS, host name are already set up. Yes, put yes. And then you want to select the NIC you would like to use for the management. This is going to be a 0, and it's going to be that first network interface that you had chosen. So the order does matter. So you're just going to click yes. All right. And then for here, how would you like to connect to the internet? Direct is great. And then do you want to keep the default Docker IP range? Yes. And now you are going to want to add the monitor interface or sniffing interface. This is what's you're going to send all of your sniffing traffic to. And so spacebar and click yes. And now you're going to want to choose your email address that you're going to use for Elasticsearch. And then you're going to want to choose your password and then re-enter the password. And then here, how would you like to access the web interface? We are going to choose other because we are utilizing the cloud. And as you can see, it says if you choose something other than IP, then you'll need to ensure that you can resolve the name via DNS or host entry. And that is exactly what we're going to do later on. And if you don't choose the right option right here, when you go and try to log on to the web console, which we're going to do later, it's not going to let you, and there's no way to install those services. And then this is going to be the host name or IP. This is the web interface that you're going to use. I'm just going to type in project SO, just don't forget that. And then do you want to allow access to the security onion via the web interface? Yes. Now here you're just going to type in all zeros. So this just allows basically all rules to come. And then, all right, so now you're going to get new options and then take a screenshot of this. And then as you can see, my host name is project so. I have my management IP address, and then I'm just going to choose yes, this is okay. And then it will take about 30 minutes to fully go through and then do all of that. So while we wait for this to go through, we are going to change the host file on a Windows machine. In order to do this, what we are going to do is we are going to go to the search button, type in Notepad, right-click this, run as administrator, and yes, that's a really important part. Now we're going to go to File, we're going to go to Open. Now we are going to go to this PC, this local disk C, and then we are going to go to Windows. Now we are going to find System32, which is full of really great configuration files. And then we are going to find drivers. Now we're going to find Etsy, the ETC folder. And now you see there's nothing there, so go to all files. And now you're going to see the host file, like it said earlier in that setup. Now we're going to right click, and then we are going to go to Open. Now, as you can see, here's the host file. Something to know is this sharp symbol means that it doesn't read. So as you can see, I have another one right here, and there's no sharp symbol, meaning that this file line will be read. So I'm just going to delete this. As you remember, you chose a host name right here. That is what you're going to put right here. So we're just going to put project so. And now for this IP address, we're going to put the public IP address. And you can find that if you go back to your connect right here, you're going to see the public IP address right here. Now we can just paste that. Spacing doesn't really matter that much. Okay, and so now I'm just going to save it, and then that's it. When this is complete, which takes about 20 minutes, you can just go to copy, and then you can go up here, and then you should just be able to type in http/project so. And as you can see, it's taking a while. It can't reach the page. So at the end, in a couple of minutes, we'll go over on how to do that. All right, so now that we have finally completed Security Onion, it's now complete, we can navigate to the web interface utilizing this. So we are just going to copy this and then go here, and then we are going to notice your connection isn't private. That is great news. We're just going to go to Advanced, Continue to Project. Now we can just log in with that username and password that we had chosen when we were setting it up. And there you go. So you're going to notice that we now have this beautiful dashboard, and we can log into Security Onion. Now we have Security Onion up and running. Now the next part of this lab is going to be ingesting all of those logs from AWS, from a host machine, Windows, and also networking traffic from a Linux machine. And this is going to give you a good understanding of what host intrusion detection system is, and also what network intrusion detection system is, along with how you can ingest logs in a environment and exactly what that means. I'm going to go over security groups and creating one for the sniffing interface. To go over it, in the Security Onion instances, there are two network interfaces. We have the management interface, which is the one that you're going to utilize to log into the console. This one, you only want your IP address to be able to reach it. Now for the other one, it's the sniffing interface, and so you're going to want to have more permissions. You want to have more traffic to be able to go through that network interface, so then you can then forward all of that into the Security Onion. That being said, what we are going to do here is we're going to create a sniffing Security Onion group. Now, as you can see, I have a lot of security groups here. Just ignore those. I'm just going to go to Create Security Group. And then for this, I'm just going to name it the security group name. So Project SO Sniffing. And then the description is going to be monitoring SO. Now for the VPC, make sure that you choose the correct one. So this is going to be the Project SO. For the outbound rules, this is all traffic. That means all of the traffic, say you were going to the internet, it'll allow you to go to all of the websites essentially. And then as you can see for the inbound rule, this is the traffic that it allows traffic within that security group. So we're going to go to inbound rules, and then we're going to add all traffic, and then we're going to go to the source type, and then we're going to choose anywhere IPv4. And now, as you can see, we have source everything, and this would be for any IP address, but we're just going to make sure that we are able to talk internally to the other security groups. And then we are going to go to Create Security Group right here. Great. And now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to assign the security group to the network interface. In order to do that, we're going to go back to Instances. We're going to go back to Security Onion. We're going to go back to Networking, and then we're going to go to the sniffing interface. The sniffing interface is going to be the one that isn't the public IPv4. So we're going to go to this interface, and then we're going to rename it Sniffing. Okay, and then what we are going to do is we're going to change this security group right here. So as you can see, this is the SO management. You don't want that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Actions, and then we're going to change security group. Now here we're going to select the security group, and so it's great that we named it correctly, because if you don't name it correctly, it can get really confusing. All right, so now that network interface has the correct security group. So now I'm just going to stop it here, and then in the next video, we're going to go up setting up Linux instance to see if your IDS is running correctly. Now we're going to set up the Linux instance. In order to do this, we're going to go back to Instance, and then as you can see, we have a launch instance We are just going to name it Linux Project SO or whatever naming scheme that you have. And then for the browse more, you can choose an Amazon Linux version right here. So we're going to choose this Amazon Linux AMI and then go to select. Now we're going to basically just leave everything here. We have the Linux project, we have the AMI. Now we're going to choose the instance type. Now we need to make sure that this is a Nitro. In this case, we are going to use T3 Nano. This, however, might change. What you can do is you can Google which ones are Nitro instant types. When you launch an instance, the instance type that you specify determines the hardware of the host computer used for the instance. So you're choosing the hardware right now. And then we're going to go to the Nitro system. So it's a collection of hardware and software components built by AWS that enable high performance and high availability. And it provides bare metal capabilities that eliminate virtualization overhead and support workloads that require full access to host hardware. Now that is a lot, but essentially it has the Nitro cards, monitoring, management, security, and support, which is fantastic. And then it also gives you a lot of virtualized instances that are built on the Nitro system. So you want to make sure that it is one of these. And as you can see, these are a little bit confusing, but we just chose the T3. All right. And then we're going to want to create a new key pair. So we're going to go back and we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to PPK and then project SO Linux. We're going to get rid of the spaces. All right, make sure that it's PK so you can use it. And that, remember, is only if you are on a Windows machine. If you are on a Mac machine, it's going to be a .pem. Now we're going to create that key pair. As you can see, we have it. I'm just going to drag that up here. And then for the network settings, verify that it's in the public and it's not. So we're going to go here, make sure that it's in the public, and then we are going to put it in the same one that we put the other ones. Also, you can change auto assign IP to enable, so you don't have to assign the IP address this time. And we can do that because we don't have two interfaces. All right, and then also I didn't mention, but you're going to want to make sure you have a security group rule right here. Make sure that we're just going to allow all traffic because this is a Linux machine, and then we're going to use everything. All right. So as we can see, it allows all IP addresses to access your instance. Now, I wouldn't do this in the real world, but because we're only using it for a short amount of time, that's fine. If you want to, you can lock it down. And then 8 is fine here. There's only one. And then we're just going to go ahead and then we're going to launch the Linux instance. Awesome. And then in order to log on to this, we're just going to go back. We're going to open up PuTTY. We're going to bring this back up here. And then as you can see, it's up and running. It's still initializing, but it has an IP address right here. So we're just going to copy this. And then we're going to go to SSH right here, and then auth, and then credentials. And then we are going to load that specific PPK key for that. And then we're just going to go to open. And then as you can see, we're just going to go to accept. And then we are going to log in. Now, I actually don't know the username for this one. I don't remember it. But if we go to connect, we're going to see it's EC2 user. So we can just type up here EC2 user. And now it's authenticating with the public key and we're able to log on, meaning that we were successful in doing this. All right. And then now in the next video, we're going to go and set up a VPC mirroring session. And this is so you can mirror all of the network traffic on this Linux machine into Security Onion network intrusion detection system. All right. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. In this video, I'm going to go over setting up traffic mirroring. So what is traffic mirroring? In AWS, it allows you to capture and inspect network traffic in your VPC. Some things to remember is that you can mirror all traffic and it can generate a large amount of data, which leads to really high costs. For instance, you could set up a honeypot within this same lab and then all of that would be forwarded to the security onion, but it could possibly cost you a lot of money. And also, you're going to get a lot of bot traffic. So it's not going to be that good of a learning experience. Usually, that is what is just called noise. Let's get started in setting it up. What we are going to do here is we are going to navigate to the VPC dashboard within here. So we're just going to type in VPC. And then what we're going to do on side underneath the traffic right here is we are going to look for traffic mirroring. And then as you can see, there's mirror sessions, mirror targets, and mirror filters. These are all used for different things. So a traffic mirror is a feature in AWS that allows you to capture and inspect network traffic. And so when you use traffic mirroring, you can copy the inbound and outbound traffic of an EC2 instance and send it to another instance for analysis or inspection. This is particularly useful for cases like monitoring network performance, analysis, and security threat. Now over here, you also see that there is a mirror target and then a mirror filter and a mirror session. A mirror target is the destination for the mirrored traffic. It's where the copied traffic is sent. In AWS, the mirror target could be an EC2 instance or a network load balancer. For this instance, we're going to send it to the sniffing interface of the security onion. Now, there is also a mirror filter, which defines which traffic to mirror. So instead of mirroring all traffic, you can choose to mirror only specific types of traffic based on a criteria like a protocol, a source and destination port, an IP address. And by using the mirror filter, you can reduce the amount of irrelevant data that's sent to the mirror target and focus only on the traffic that's important for your analysis. Now you also see a mirror session. It ties together the source, typically an EC2 instance, and the mirror target, where you want to send the mirrored traffic, and the mirrored filter, which specifies the type of traffic to mirror. Multiple mirror sessions can be associated with a single mirror source. This means you can mirror traffic from a single source to multiple targets or within different filters. And each mirror session has a priority value. So this is crucial when there are multiple sessions associated with a single source. The lower the number, the higher the priority. If traffic matches multiple session filters, AWS will use the priority value to determine which session takes precedence. We are going to walk through actually creating a mirror session and then mirroring Linux network traffic and then feeding them into the security onion sniffing interface. The first part that we're going to do in this mirror session is we need to create a filter, and then we are going to create a target, and then we're going to use a session to pull those two things together. So first we're going to start with mirroring session, and then we're going to create traffic mirror. All right, so we're going to start with a mirror filter. Mirror filter defines the type of traffic to mirror. So here we're going to name it. So I'm just going to name it security project SO filter. I spelled that wrong. And then we're going to scroll down and then we're going to add a rule. Now this rule, we're just going to put 10 accept, and then we're going to put all protocols. And then here we're just going to put in 0.0. That was a 9. So 0.0.0.0/0. And then we're just going to copy this. And then we're going to put it right here also. And as you can see, I put that in wrong. So .0. All right. 0.0.0.0/0 basically allows all traffic from any IP address or that specific protocol you put, or you could actually put all traffic, which means all traffic is allowed. Extremely insecure. I would never suggest doing this in a real world environment. I'm just kind of lazy, and so it's just easier to put 0.0.0.0/0. And now we're going to do the outbound. We are going to, again, do the same thing. So we're going to accept, and then we're going to put all protocols. And then for the source, we're just going to copy and paste the 0.0.0.0, both in the source CIDR block and destination CIDR block. And then we're going to click create. This creates a mirror filter. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have to create a traffic mirror target. So if we go down here, we will go back to the traffic mirroring, and then we're going to go and create a target. So create traffic mirror target. And then I'm just going to put projects target. And then I'm just going to put that also in the description. And now we need to choose a target. It's going to be the network interface. And we're going to choose the secondary interface for Security Onion. This is the sniffing interface, and you may have to go back and look for the name. So right here, as you can see, it doesn't tell you what the description is. So I have to go back to the console, and then I'm just going to go to EC2, and then I'm going to find my instances, and then I'm going to find my Security Onion. And then if you remember, if we go to networking, we have two interfaces, and that is because one is going to be for management, and you know that it's for management because it's public, and then one is going to be for sniffing or monitoring. And so that is going to be this one. The network interface is C1, C47. If we go back, we should see C1, C47, and right here, now we have the right network interface. It's important that you choose the right one here because then you're going to be creating a mirror target for a different machine, and it may not work because it might not be a Nitro system. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to create this. All right, and then as you can see, it has now been created. Now we need to tie these two things together, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a traffic mirror session. We're going to go back and scroll down at the side and then go to mirror session. And then here we're going to go to create traffic mirror session. And then what we are going to do here is I'm just going to put in project session. All right, and then I'm just going to copy this right here. And now we're going to select the mirror source. So for mirror source, we're going to select the network interface of the EC2 instance from which you want to mirror. This will be the network interface of the Linux instance. So all of this traffic is going to be mirrored into the Security Onion from this interface. And to do that, I don't know what the interface is. So we need to go back to instances. We need to go back to my Linux machine. And then what we can do is we can go to networking, and then we can find what our interface ID is. So it's 39C2. So the source is going to be 39C2 is what I chose for the resource that I wanted to monitor. Now the mirrored target is the endpoint that is the destination for the mirrored traffic. So if we scroll down, what you notice is you already created the target. So you just choose the target that you created a few steps ago. Now we need to specify a session number. AWS uses this number to determine the order of sessions when an EC2 instance is associated with multiple traffic mirroring sessions. So we can just choose one, and then we can scroll down, and then we can click create. This field is required, determines what traffic gets mirrored. I forgot the mirror filter, so we're just going to choose the mirror filter that you did earlier in those steps. So in this case, I'm going to use the project so mirroring. So now I'm going to click create. All right, so it says currently unavailable because its network interface is attached or is attached to an instance in a stopped state. Troubleshooting, this means I need to go and turn on the Security Onion instance, which is turned off right now, not on. We're going to go back to instances, and then in order to see all of my instances, I just click that X right there, and then I'm going to go to Security Onion, and then I'm going to go to Start Instance. This is just basics of troubleshooting. Now I'm going to wait until that completely boots up. Now I'm going to go back to the VPC, and then I'm going to scroll down to traffic mirroring, and then I'm going to go to the mirror session, and then I'm going to create a new session. So we're just going to go back through that whole thing. So I'm just going to rename it the same thing. It looks like it was still there. So project, so session, and then I'm going to select the resource that I want to monitor, which I actually don't remember what it is. I'm going to go back to the instances, Security Onion. And so this is actually a little bit confusing, right? So you want to make sure it's the network interface of the Linux instance. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Linux instance, and then I'm going to go back and redo the same thing because I don't remember what it was in it. And then we're going to choose that target that we created. And this is the destination for the mirrored traffic. And now what we are going to do is we're just going to choose a session right here, and then we're going to choose a filter, and this determines what traffic gets mirrored. So we already created a filter in that previous step. So make sure that you choose the correct filter if you're doing more, and then I'm just going to go to create. All right, and so now as you can see, let me create it. Great. And now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to test the traffic to make sure that it works. So we're going to test the network intrusion detection system, or NIDS, utilizing the Linux Nitro in the next step to make sure that this traffic mirroring session works, meaning that Linux network traffic is being forwarded to the security onion instance. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to open up two terminals. We're going to have the Linux machine open, which you can do with PuTTY. I still have it open from the last session. And then we're going to open up the security onion instance. For the host name, you're going to get the public IPv4 address right here. And then we're going to just type in that public IP address right here. And then again, we're going to go to connection, SH, and then we're going to go to credentials, and then we're going to load the private key file for authentication. Now, this is going to be different for your Linux machine than it was for your security onion. It just depends what you choose. I am going to choose the PPK file for this security onion instance. When it asks me to log in, I'm just going to type in onion. And as you can see, I chose the wrong key because it says server refused our key. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this process again to open up the correct one. Make sure to choose the right key and don't lose it, because if you lose it, you're going to have to recreate the instance. Remember, connection and then auth and then credentials, and then we go to browse. And then I'm going to choose hopefully the right one. And now I'm going to click open. It says host does not exist, meaning I probably typed in the wrong IP address. Let's try this again. So here, 44, we're just going to copy. And then I'm just going to type in that IP address. I'm going to go to connections, SSH, auth, and then credentials, and then browse. And then I'm going to project PPK, and then I'm going to open it. And then I'm going to type in onion. And as you can see, it finally let me log in. If you're having issues logging in, you're not alone on that. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the IP address from the Linux box. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go over to the Linux box, which you can tell it is up at the top. It says EC2 user, and then here it's onion. So this is your security onion instance. This is the Linux one that you set up early, in case you get those confused. Now I'm just going to type in IPA right here. And now we're just going to look for the IP address. What I'm going to do is the IP address right here is called the private IP address. So this isn't going to be the public IP address. And I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to type in sudo tcp dump tac I eth1 host, and then I'm going to type in 10.100.11. So this might be different for you, but just ensure that is captured. The TCP dump is a really important concept that is really good to know if you work within security. It's a powerful command line packet analyzer tool used to capture and analyze network traffic. And it allows users to intercept and display the contents of network packets being transmitted or received over a network. So technically, you could actually run, say, a type of malware on your Linux machine, capture that traffic, and then analyze it within Security Onion. It can display network traffic from many different protocols, including TCP, UDP, ICMP, and HTTP. After doing a little bit of troubleshooting, because that is part of the process, what we are going to do is we're going to paste, or you can write out sudo tcp dump tac I eth1 host. And then here you're going to type in the IP address of that Linux machine. So it'll be the private one. So it's going to be 10.0.100.11. And we're just going to paste it right here. And then we're going to press enter. And now, as you can see, it looks like it's listening on ETH1. It's listening, essentially what this means is it's listening to all of the traffic coming from the Linux machine right here. What we are going to do is we're going to use a tool called test my NIDs. It's in the documentation, but basically test my NIDs right here. What you can do is you can just choose the one-liner to download and execute in interactive mode relatively quickly. I'm just going to copy this one right here, and then I'm just going to get out of this, and then I'm going to paste it into the Linux distro, not the security onion, and it should come up with something that looks like this. Now, what we're going to do is we're just going to type in 11. And this essentially runs basically all of the attack traffic. And as you saw, it doesn't look like it listened to anything here or saw anything. Most likely, this is due because of a security group issue. So as you can see, this traffic is not marrying to the onion, so it's not catching out all of that traffic. Let's troubleshoot that issue. All right. Completely forgot to allow the internal network on these security groups. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the network security groups, and then we're going to go to instances, and then we're going to open up our security onion instance, and then we're going to security, and then we're going to find that management group. What you're going to see is I allow all traffic from my IP, and then I only allow 443 and 222. There's nothing here saying that it's going to allow anything from the other network. So what you want to do is you want to go to edit inbound rules, and then you want to add a rule, and then you're going to add an all traffic one, and then you're going to put 10.0.100.0/24. Now, if you remember, this is what you chose when you made the VPC. This basically allows all internal traffic to talk to each other. Looking back on this, I realized that I allowed all traffic for SSH. What that essentially means is that anyone can log into this Linux machine no matter what their IP address. This is very insecure, and you should never do that. Instead, what you should do is you should limit it to 1 or 2 IP addresses that are approved by your company, and make sure that computer is locked down so nobody can get to it. If you don't have that, you're not going to be able to do traffic mirroring from that Linux box to the security onion. On top of this, we're also going to make sure that we're doing that for the sniffing security onion interface. So in order to get there, we're going to go to instances, security onion, and then we are going to look at the correct interface. So this will be the one without the public IP v4 address. So it's the project. And then we're just going to see which security group it is. This is the wrong security group, so we need to change this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that instance, and then we are going to go back to that security onion. The interface is a little clunky on AWS, I'm not going to lie. And then we're going to choose this, and then we're going to finally just check it right here. Go to actions, and then we're going to go to change security groups. Here we created a sniffing one, if you remember. And so we are just going to type in project sniffing, and then we are going to add security group, and then we have to remove that management one. Otherwise, it's going to overrule this sniffing one. And then we're just going to click save. And now we can scroll back over, and then we can go to this management security group. What we're going to do here, as you can see, there's only one IPFC or address, and it looks like it allows all internal addresses right here. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that Linux instance, and then we're going to open up that security instance. And then now, as you can see, you see it mirroring. And then what we're going to do is now we're going to run it. We're just going to type in 11, and you're going to see a bunch of traffic right here. It's working now. You can now talk to this, essentially. What we're going to do now to see if it generated any alerts is we're going to go to our management console. And this is the console that you use to basically manage the SOC, different than the command line. So we're going to just type in that password and username that we used, and then we're going to enter. And now we're just going to go to alerts. And as you can see, there's a bunch of alerts here. Now, I didn't check before I sent them, but all of these were sent because of that dump that we sent just now. If we look at this, we can go over a brief overview. This is the Security Onion console. We'll go deeper into it later. But essentially, it's like the event modules, where is it coming, Suricata, event severity, the rule name, the account. We have the dashboard, and we can look at the dashboard and all of the alerts that came. So what you're going to notice is that most of the alerts are from the network. And that is because we just did a test my NIDS and set a bunch of network alerts to the intrusion detection system using NIDS. It's the network host. It's the network portion. As you can see, there's also file, and then there's IAM, and you can explore these. It's pretty cool on how this works. You can literally learn anything you want on Security Onion for security operations centers. So it's pretty cool and extremely robust. That concludes this module. You just utilized tdump, you tested network intrusion detection system, you set up traffic mirroring in Linux and Security Onion groups. You did a lot. And so in the next videos, we're going to set up a Windows Server instance, and then we're going to ingest sysmon logs and also forward those into Security Onion. So doing the Windows side is the host or HIDS portion of the intrusion detection system. We'll continue that in the next video, and I will see you there. Bye. In this video, we're going to go over and install a Windows Server instance. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to E2 dashboard, and then you're going to want to go to launch instance. And then for launch in instance, we're going to type in Windows Project S. Now for the application in OS image, we're going to get the Windows right here. There's a quick start and you can find it right here. Now, as you can see, there's Microsoft Windows Server 2022. And then for the instance type, we're just going to leave it. So we could go to the free tier. This might be a little bit slow, so I'm just going to add a little bit. And then for this, we're going to go to create new key pair. And then I'm going to name it Windows S Project SO. And then we're going to use the .pem for this one. Now this one's a little bit different. We're not going to utilize PuTTY for this because Windows has a thing called remote desktop. But we are going to have to upload the .pem in order to get the password. All right, and so we're just going to create that key pair. And then as you can see, it's right there. And then for the network settings, we have to make sure that these are correct. So it's in the correct VPC. As you can see, it's in a private subnet. We need to have it in a public subnet. Don't get that wrong. And then also for the auto assign public IP, we're going to enable that. For the firewall or security group, we're going to rename it. So it's going to be security group. We're going to name it. All right. And then the configure storage can be here, number of instances. That is great. And then we're just going to launch that instance. And so now we are going to wait. And then we're just waiting until this pending turns into running. All right, great. So now we see that we have a public IPv4 address right here. It's 18.209.157.33. We can now log in to the remote desktop. In order to do that, we're just going to go to that search bar at the bottom, and then we're going to type in remote desktop connection. And then we are going to, you can do it either through the IP address or the DNS, but we see this, we can go to connect right here and then RDP client, and then we can download remote desktop file and then keep it connect. And then you're going to need to have the password. So to get the password, you're going to go to get password, upload private key content, which you should have, which we just did. So it should be in download, and then you're going to see it. And then we're going to decrypt the password. And here is the password. We're going to go back to enter your credential. And then I'm just going to say, remember me, and then we can log on. All right. And so we are just preparing that. In the next videos, we're going to install sysmon. In this video, I'm going to go over installing sysmon and exactly why it's important. We're also going to go over Swift on security, which is also a really important aspect to cleaning up sysmon configuration. So essentially, sysmon is a Windows utility that monitors and logs various system activities to the Windows event log. If we go to Event Viewer, we're going to see a bunch of logs right here. Here's the application security setup and system. When you install sysmon, it provides a more detailed logging than just the regular Windows event viewer that's already installed. So it provides aspects such as the process creation, network connections, changes to file creation time, and more. And these logs can provide more insights into what's happening on a system at a very detailed level. And so it can log all network connections, including source, destination, and port details. And this is vital in detecting unusual or malicious network activity. The detailed logs from sysmon can also be ingested by intrusion detection systems to improve their detection capabilities. And so we are going to go ahead and install that in here. But first, let's go over exactly the event viewer and key points to the event viewer. As you notice, we're going to expand, and usually we're just going to go up here, and this is an event log, and it can be found in the event. So what you're going to notice is it has an event ID, and then it's going to have a source, which indicates the software system component that caused the event. There's also a date and time. This specifies when the event occurred. We also have the computer name. So this is the name of the computer where it occurred. We have the user. So it's no user. And then we have the description, which provides information about. On top of that, there are multiple types of logs. So there's application logs, security logs, setup, system, and forwarded logs and events. These are really great for troubleshooting. So if you want to identify and resolve technical issues, it's also great for security, detecting unauthorized activities. Also, compliance, ensuring that the system meets specific standards or regulation, and also performance, gauging system performance and also optimizing it. Pretty cool there. All right, let's get started in installing. If you look at the documentation below, the first step is we need to download and install sysmon from the Windows page. And there should be a link there. So we're just going to open up Edge, and then we're just going to paste in that specific Microsoft page. So we're going to press enter. And now what we're going to do is we're going to see sysmon, sysinternals, Microsoft Learn. We're just going to click on that. And then you're going to notice download sysmon and download sysmon for Linux. We're just going to download this first one, and we're going to bring it over to the desktop. And now because it's in a zip file, we need to extract it. So we're just going to right click. We're going to go to extract all, and then this is going to be extracted to your desktop. So we're just going to go to extract, and then now it is complete. So we're going to exit out of that, and then we're going to delete this, the zipped file, and then I'm just going to rename it just sysmon so it matches yours. And then that is all for that. Now, the second part that we're going to do is we're going to apply Swift on security. And we're going to do that by opening up Windows Edge, and then we're just going to paste that GitHub link right here. And this is a sysinternals configuration file template with default high quality event tracing. Oftentimes sysmon will be overwhelming, so it's always good to have a configuration file. So we're just going to go to code, and then we're just going to click on download zip, and then we're going to bring it back over to the desktop. We're going to right click it, extract all because we're unzipping it. And then as you can see, it's into this folder. And then we're just going to go to extract, and then voila. And now we're going to delete that zipped file because you'll just have too many of them here. Now, as you can see, I have a sysmon config master, L document, and all of that. We can go ahead and open it by right clicking and then open with, and you want to open it with Notepad. Now, this is basically the configuration file of high quality event tracing. And so you can edit this if you want. And there's a lot of notes right here. So if you want to read more about sysmon in this configuration file, it would be really great. But as you can see, they have different things if you scroll down of what is going to be logged. So network connection initiated. So sysmon event ID number 3, pretty cool there. What we're going to do is we're going to drag this config file over to sysmon, and then we're just going to bring it right here. And now it's all in one document underneath the sysmon folder. What we're going to do is we're going to take this command, and then we're going to open up the command line. And now we are going to cd into desktop. So this is changing directories into the desktop. Now we're going to cd into the sysmon folder. And now, as you can see, we are in the correct directory. And now we're just going to paste that configuration file that can be found within the documentation below, but also the GitHub file. All right. And now I'm just going to run it. So I just pasted that. And now, as you can see, it says configuration file validated, sysmon installed, sysmon 64 started. Now that we have completed that, we can just verify that the sysmon was indeed installed by going to Event Viewer. And then we're just going to go to Applications and Services Logs. And then we're going to go to Microsoft and then Windows right here. And then we're going to scroll down and you're going to notice a sysmon file, which is fantastic, meaning that it is indeed working. And as you can see, this is different than the Event Viewer ones, as it's way more detailed than just the regular Windows event logs. Now we're also going to go to Services, it's indeed installed, but you can also look in Services to make sure that it's also run. So if we scroll down, we're going to notice sysmon right here. Awesome. So it is indeed running. And then the source right here is sysmon. This is absolutely great news because it's working. All right, and now in the next video, we're going to go ahead and configure the Windows server to send logs to the security onion. So then you're going to be able to see all of these logs within the management console of the Security Operations Center. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. In this video, I'm going to go ahead and install that Elastic agent onto the Windows Server instance in order to forward those logs into Security Onion. What we're going to do is we're going to open up and connect to our Windows Server instance. So if you don't know how to do that, this will be really similar on both a Mac and a Windows, and you should have done it in the previous one. But basically, we're just going to open this, and then we're going to go to connect. And then I'm going to put in my password. I have to get the password, upload the PEM key, and then we're just going to encrypt this password. And then we're going to just copy the password and then put the password right here. And then click Remember Me because you can use this in the future to log on. Now that we've logged on to the Windows Server instance, what we are going to do is the first thing is we have to change that etc host file. We're just going to type in Notepad at this bottom. We're going to click on the Notepad. We need to go to Notepad and then we need to right click, run as administrator. That's really important. Now we're going to go to File and then Open. And now we're going to go to this PC and then the local C drive. Then we're going to go into Windows and we're going to look for the System32 folder, which has a lot of really good configuration files that hackers like to get into. Now we are going to find the drivers folder right here. And now we are going to go to the etc host file and click on it. And there's not going to be anything here. We have to go down to this bottom and then click all files. And now we can just open up this etc host file. And now we're just going to put the IP address of our etc host file. And then also we're going to put what we named it right here. So here is my public IPv4 address. I'm just going to place that right here. And then mine was project. Yours might be different, but essentially this is mapping the host name to the IP address. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to log into that Security Onion instance and then add a lot of firewall rules. Up here, we're just going to type in HTTP, not HTTPS, because we don't have that All right, and then we're just going to log in from here. And then as you can see, it's not working. So I'm going to go back over here and then I'm going to make sure that I chose the right IP address, which I did not. I chose the wrong IP address. So you're going to want to make sure that this is the correct IP address. Otherwise, it's not going to work. As you can see, it's not resolving. So we're just going to copy this. I'm going to go back to my Windows Server instance, and then I'm just going to change this IP address to the correct one. Make sure to go to Files, Save, and now I'm just going to reload this, and it should work. All right, and it does. So now I'm going to continue unsafe. That's totally fine. And then I'm going to type in my email and password. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down and then I'm going to go to downloads. I'm going to go ahead and click this Windows 86 64 installer. And then as you can see, it is installing. So you're just going to make sure it's keep and then show more. You're going to keep this NOA. Windows Defender sometimes gets in the way. While we wait for that to download, as you see, it says when installing, be sure to allow the network access through the firewall. This is really important. If you don't open up these firewall rules, you're not going to have any traffic. What we're going to do here is we're just going to put the IP addresses here. It will be the Elastic Agent endpoint when I say here. And also, you should never let people see your IP addresses. This actually isn't my current IP address. This is gone and long ago. Now, as you can see, I already have a lot of IP addresses because I've been testing this. I also have 0.0.0.0/0, and that basically allows everything. The reason I did that was because this can get really confusing really fast. You don't really want to spend your time troubleshooting firewall rules. Understand what they are and that they're a huge pain. Let me reiterate, never ever put 0.0.0.0/0 on any firewall. It basically allows all traffic, and that is really, really insecure. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it here. And actually, I'm going to go and I'm going to go through all of them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Analyst, and then I'm just going to put this in basically every single firewall rule underneath host groups that you see right here. Now, this is completely redundant. I'm just doing it for the demo because I have this. And if you want to, I suggest putting this because it allows all firewall rules. But make sure to put at least your current IP address of that Windows server on all of these host groups. So you have the Analyst, Beats Endpoint, Desktop, Elastic Agent Endpoint, which is the most important one here. We have Desktop, Fleets. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. And then we're just going to go ahead and put this, the IDH with the intrusion detection honeypot. We're going to go put this on import. And then we're going to put this on manager and then receiver. And then also search node. We're just going to do it on all of them. All right. So this is just going to make your life a lot easier. It also makes my life a lot easier. So yeah. Now that we have this downloaded, what we're going to want to do is you're going to see this Elastic file right here. You're going to want to create a folder on your desktop. So you're going to go to File, New Folder, and then you're just going to name it Elastic and then press Enter. And then we're just going to open it up. And then we're going to go to the downloads, and then we're just going to cut this. You can right click, cut, and then we're just going to right click or paste or Control V. And now we're just going to run it. So we're going to right click, run as administrator, and then it's going to do some logs. So sometimes it won't work, but you have to look at the logs to see why it's not working and why it is working. And so I'm just going to give this about 10 minutes, and it does look like it's working. So as you can see, there's multiple things right here. So it extracted and then it placed the source. This is good news. Now, if it didn't work, you're only going to have this installer. And if you open up this installer, you're gonna notice it's gonna say failed, but it'll give you the reason why it failed. So always look at the logs. I'm just gonna give this about 10 to 20 minutes for it to fully install, but also for these security onion firewall rules to work. This can take up to an hour to update. So if it's not working right now and it says connection error on your logs right here in this, then you're going to most likely have a firewall rule issue and you may want to wait about an hour for that to update. And so when this is finished, I'll come back and then we can continue installing the Elastic Agent and I'll go over Fleet and then how you can use that. All right. It did install. And the way I know that, the first reason is right here, it says Elastic Agent installation completed. This is what you're looking for. If it says can't find host, then it's most likely a firewall issue. So now we're just going to exit out of this right here. And then what we are going to do is we're going to go back to the security onion on your instance, and then we're going to go to Elastic Fleets. Fleet is where you can view all of your endpoints, which is great for security. And you can install this agent on basically any machine and then have all of your resources and everything on this one. So as you can see, it looks like it did work. So I have the EC2 AMZ. And if we look at what my host name is, it matches this host name right here. So VJR RG3C. It did in fact enroll, which is great news. That means that we are good to go. Now you can do a lot with Fleet. If we go back to Fleet, you could filter data using KQL syntax right here. You can gather host data on your endpoints. And then as you can see, we can just go to Windows endpoints and then we can notice all of this. And then we can look through this if you want to, and you can look through, I suggest doing this, look through all of the logs and all of this. It'll give you a really good familiarization. I can also create a video on it, so let me know if you want a video. So if we go back to integrations, as you can see, we can add AWS. And then later on, we're going to do CloudTrail. So you can also collect just from the EC2. You can do NAT gateways. You can do databases, this Amazon S3. And this agent makes it so much easier. It used to be really difficult. And then also, if you go back to your analytics, and then you can go to your dashboard, this is Kibana's dashboard, which is really cool to play around with. Alternatively, what this course is based on is the Security Onion dashboard. We can start checking to see if those logs are being ingested. And what you're going to do is you're going to go here, and then you are going to go to Hunt. And then we are going to click down here, and then we're going to find the Group by Event module and Event Dataset. Here we go. So now we are going to see all types of alerts. We're going to see the Elastic Agent endpoint and the Elastic Agent file beep. And so if we go down even more, we're going to notice the event data set. And then also we can click down on one of these logs. And then what we're looking for is we're looking for the host name, which is the host name of the Windows machine, and then it says Windows. This means that those logs are successfully being ingested. Congratulations, you have gotten really far in this Security Operations Center course for beginners. So you have probably learned so much, just keep going. In the next section, we're going to ingest AWS cloud logs. Now this can be a little bit difficult, so pay very, very close attention. I'm going to go over ingesting AWS logs. What we're going to do is we're going to create an identity access management user and assign them the right permissions. We're going to create a CloudTrail with an S3 bucket. Then we're going to create a thing called SQS queue and enable SNS. And then we are going to go in the Elastic Agent integration with AWS. And then we're going to test and search with an event ID. Now, this might seem like a lot of jargon, but I promise at the end of this, you're going to know exactly what it means. Now, if we look at this diagram right here, this is actually wrong. What we are going to do is we're going to create this CloudTrail and then forward it to a SQS, and then the SQS is going to forward it to Security Onion. We are going to be following this right here, so monitoring this with Elastic Agent, and it's going to show how you would do this with VPC flow logs. If you were interested in that, you 100% could do that. But we're going to do it with CloudTrail. But the instructions are basically the same. In order to get started, we're going to go down here and we're going to log into Cabana using the same credentials that we had used before. I had already logged in. It'll probably ask you to log in. And then I'm going to go to Add Integrations. It's also underneath Management, and there'll be integrations right here. And now I'm going to search for AWS. And these are all of the AWS logs that you can ingest into your SIM, which is pretty cool. So you can do a lot here. You could do WAF, VPC, flow logs. You could create a map. So we're going to go to AWS. And then here we're going to go to Add AWS. And you're going to notice that we need these access keys and secret access keys, which we don't have. And we're going to need a QURL right here. And so will give you a hint of how I know that you need these things other than the instructions. But also, you're going to scroll down here and you're going to read the documentation, really important part of tech. And then you're going to notice here. So specific AWS permissions are required for the IAM user to make specific AWS API calls. And if you don't have these specific permissions, it's not going to work. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an IAM user that has an access key and secret key. Then we can ingest our CloudTrail. What we're going to do is we are going to go back to our console right here, and then we're going to just type in IA. And what we're going to do here is we're going to create a user and then put it in a group. So let's just start with the group first. So let's create a group. And then I'm going to name it video demo. And then down here, you're going to notice you're going to attach different permission policies. This is where you're going to add all of those permissions that you saw down here. All right, and so we're going to name it SQS. We're just going to give this full access. Now, you definitely should not do this, but for simplicity, I'm just going to give it full access. And then S3, and then I'm going just to type in add permissions, attach policies, and here you're just going to I'm just going to give it full access. And if you want to, you can go ahead and tighten down these IAMs if you want to secure this, because this is extremely insecure the way I'm doing it right now. So I'm going to give it full access here, and then I'm just going to attach policies, Cloud Watch logs. So I'm going to give it full access, and then I'm going to type in CloudTrail because we're going to be doing CloudTrail. And say if you wanted to do WAF, and then I'm just going to type that in. Let's see, add permissions, logs, and I'm looking for describe log groups. EC2, it looks like describe regions and instances. I'm just going to give it EC2 full access. Now this right here, giving an EC2 full access, violates the principle of least privilege, meaning you give the least amount of privileges necessary, because if you don't, if someone gets access to this EC2, they basically have full access. This is a huge security issue, and with zero trust being implemented, identity access management is becoming really, really important, and in fact, in my mind, is probably one of the fastest growing cybersecurity jobs that you can go into. IAM, add permissions, attach policies, IAM. For the IAM, list account alias. All right, so as you can see, I gave it full access to all of these. Now this, just remember, is a horrendous idea, and you always want to lock down these instances because a lot of attacks do happen because the wrong policies were attached to the wrong thing, essentially. All right, now that you have this group right here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go to users, and we're going to create a user called video demo. And now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put it in a group. And I clearly have two groups here named the same thing, but we're going to want to put it in the one that we just created. And then we're going to create a user. Now, once we have this user video demo or whatever you name it, we're going to want to go to security credentials, and then we're going to want to go to create access key. And then we are just going to choose a third-party service at this, And then we're going to create this. This is going to create the access key and the secret access key that we can then use later. Now, then we are going to document this and we're going to put it right here. So we're going to put access and then we need the secret access key and then we're going to put it right here. So don't lose this because if you lose this, you're going to have to create a new key. And as you can see, they really don't like doing these access keys because it is really insecure. In the real world, you always want to do a temporary security credential, but for this specific use case, we're not going to do that. All right, so now you have your identity access management user, then you have your programmatic access. Now we need to create a CloudTrail with an S3 bucket. At the top, we're just going to type in CloudTrail. And then what we're going to do here is we are going to go to create trail, and then I'm going to put a video demo 2, and then I'm going to create a new S3 bucket. And as you can see here, it says trail log bucket and folder. I'm just going to put video demo 2 for the name, and then I'm going to leave everything the same. We're going to scroll down and we're going to click next. And then here, I'm just going to type in video demo 2. And now we're just going to click next right here. And then as you can see, the event type, we have management events, read, write, and now we're going to click next. And then we are going to create this trail. Now this S3 bucket name already exists. So I have to go back and I have to rename it. So I'm going to put 22. All right. And then we're going to go down and then create trail. All right. This also exists already. What we're going to do is video demo. Now, I bet you this does not exist. We're going to try this again. So we're going to go to the cloud trail, create a cloud trail, and then we are going to name the cloud trail here. So I'm going to name it video demo 2. Here we're going to create a new S3 bucket. I'm just going to add video demo at the beginning of this because sometimes the S3 bucket names are hard to find a new one, basically. And then for the KMS alias, I'm just going to name it 2 also. All right, and then we're just going to click next for the cloud. For events, just make sure management events is good, API activity, read, write, next. And then we are just going to scroll down and then we're going to create the trail. Now, as you can see, we have our video demo 2 and the status is unavailable. We're just waiting for this to say that the trail log is now logging. So this should be good to go. So we have video demo 2, and then we have our SQ that we created right here. So the trail log location. So we could just click on that and it'll actually bring us to the S3 bucket right here. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get the ARN. So as you can see, we need the ARN because if we go back, we have to put that into the SQ to forward. So that is what we're doing. So we can go to properties and this is what we're looking for right here, just the ARN. And then what we're going to do is this is the ARN and then that looks good to go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to make an SQS queue and enable and make sure the JSON policy is correct. Now, this is where these instructions are going to become in handy because we're going to need this code right here. We're going to go here. We're going to type in simple queue service. And now we are going to go to create queue. We're going to keep this standard. And then I'm just going to put video demo 2. And now we're going to go down. Configuration stays the same. Encryption stays the same. It's enabled. There's a key. Now, for the access policy, we're going to want to go to advanced. And then we're going to want to delete what is currently here. So we're just going to delete that. And then we're going to go to this right here. And then we're just going to make sure to copy all of it. Don't leave out any of the brackets right here because it will not work. And now we're just going to type in this. So now what we are going to do is we are going to change out these brackets. So it says SQS ARN, and you're going to find the SQS ARN in here, which we might have to wait to change. And as you can see right here, it says S bucket. What we are going to do here we got that ARN, we are just going to copy this ARN and then we're going to very carefully change it out. So make sure to be very careful right here. Next, we have the source account. So the source account, you're just going to go up here and then you're going to type in the account ID and then we're just going to paste it right there. And then we also need the SQS ARN, which we don't have right now because we haven't created the, so it makes it a little bit difficult to do, but we're just going to go down and create queue and let's see if it lets us. Great, it did. Now that we're here, we need to get the ARN of the SQS, and now we need to go back to this access policy and we need to edit it. Now we need to go down and then we are going to replace this SQS ARN with the ARN of the SQS. And now we are going to go ahead and save it. Now, if this is not right, it'll be very difficult to do anything else. And here we're going to make sure to save this and then bring it up to our notepad right here. So now we have a SQS. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the S3 bucket and then we're going to enable event notifications. And this is going to be good because then we can get those notifications and then forward into the security onion. We are going to go back to the SQS queue that we created just now. And then we are going to go to properties and then we're going to scroll down and then we are going to edit event notification. So we're going to create an event notification. And here I'm going to name it video demo 2. All right. And then I'm going to click all objects right here. And then I'm going to scroll down all the way and then I'm going to find destination. And so we're sending it to the SQS queue. So now we're going to choose from the SQS queues. And so I'm going to choose what one I just created, and then I'm going to save changes. Now you might have an issue here. And if you do, it's either you don't have the right identity access management user, or you didn't set up your JSON configuration correctly in that previous step. I've done both of them to pain. So now that we've done this, we're going to go back over to CloudTrail in our security onion, not CloudTrail, AWS in our security onion. And then we're going to set, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the management or right here, add integrations. We're going to type in AWS CloudTrail right here. And then we are going to go to add AWS CloudTrail integration. Here you go. And I'm going to name it video demo int. Great. And now here we're going to put the access key that we got back at the beginning of it. Then we're also going to add the secret key right here. All right. And now we're going to need to add the queue URL. So this is the SQS queue that the messages will be received from. So you're just going to go ahead and you're going to add this SQS right there. And then we're going to scroll down and then it says where to add this integration. We're going to add it to existing hosts and we're going to add it to the Fleet Server project, whatever you named your security onion. This is actually what threw me off for a while. The agent policy needs to be the Fleet Server. So we just save and then we're going to save and deploy changes right here. And then we are going to wait. Awesome. So now we are going to go back to our AWS bucket. And then we're going to see if we're receiving messages. So as you can see, I have one message telling me that I did indeed set it up correctly. If you have 0, you might want to wait 10 minutes and see if you get any. So as you can see, I have messages available here. That means those ones were working, which is fantastic. Now, if you want to see trail, you're going to go to the CloudTrail event history, and you're going to notice all of these different logs. These are the logs that are being forwarded into Security Onion right here. This way, it's all in a centralized location and you don't have to continue to go back and forth between various things. Right. And then in order to test this, I'm going to create an identity access management user. So as you can see right here, we integrated it. It looks like it was successful. Now we need to test to make sure that it's actually being forwarded into the security onion. And if it's not, we're going to have to troubleshoot some issues. So what we're going to do is we're just going to type in I am up. And now what we are going to do is we're going to go to users and then we're just going to create a user. I'm just going to name it sample test user. And then we're going to click next. And then we are going to just put it in whatever group. I'm just going to put in the one I just created. And then I'm just going to create this user. Now, if I go back to Trail right here, and then I'm just going to wait until the identity access management log shows up here. Now, this can take a little bit. So this took me roughly 5 minutes, but it can often take you maybe up to 15 minutes. So great. Now it's created the user. That means that CloudTrail is logging. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this and we're going to find the event ID. Now, the event ID is only applicable to this log, and it's really good if you're wanting to search different logs. We're going to copy it, and what we're going to do is we're going to go back over to the security onion. We're going to go to hunt. And then as you can see, I've already done this. So we're just going to delete whatever you have there. And then we're just going to search for this specific log. And as you can see, there's nothing there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait about 15 minutes, which is about how long it takes for that ingestion. So I'm going to pause it here and then I'll come back in 15 minutes and I'll see if it's there. And if not, then I will show you how I'm troubleshooting this. All right. And so I'm going to pause it. All right. So it was taking a little bit longer than usual for this log to come through. So I decided to troubleshoot a little bit. So what was the first thing that I did? I brought up my handy dandy notepad and then I looked at the IAM user. So we would just go back to troubleshoot. We would start where we started. I decided to go to my IAM user and then look at the user. And then I looked at video demo. And there was something unusual that I noticed. This access key has never been used, even though I definitely did just use it. So if we look at my other ones that were successful in this, you're going to notice there was activity with these security onion 90 days. They were definitely used. This one was not. And so I was like, oh, that's unusual. So I looked at the access key. I looked up here. It looks like they matched. So then what I did is I went back to my integrations and I noticed my access key was wrong. So right here, I put my access key in the wrong space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete both of these because it 100% won't work if I don't have the right access key. And the thing is, it's also not going to really tell you. So I'm just going to copy this and then I'm going to make sure I put it in the right spot. And then here, I'm going to do the secret right here. And then I'm just going to save this integration. I'm going to save and deploy, and that is all I'm going to change. Awesome. Now I'm going to wait another 15 minutes for this to start going through and then see if it works or doesn't work. You're going to do a refresh, and then you're going to notice that this key is now officially being used. And you're going to know because it'll say used today, created today. And then if you go back, you're going to notice last activity 5 minutes ago. This is absolutely fabulous. It means your identity access key worked. Now, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go back to IAM, and then we're just going to create another user. We're going to create user. We're going to put test user delete me. Next, we can just add it to any group. It doesn't really matter because we're going to delete this user after. Now we're going to create a user. Now, keep in mind, this is also really insecure, and you should definitely delete this user after you create it because you don't want to have identities out there that have these accesses but aren't really belonging to anybody because that's how a lot of data breaches happen. And now what we are going to do is we're going to go back to Trail right here, and then we are going to wait for our identity access management log to come through in this event history right here. Again, this might take a while. Now, if we go back to the Cloud Trail and go to event history after waiting about 10 minutes, now you're going to see a create user. And we're just going to grab this event ID, make sure you grab the whole thing, and then we're going to go back to our security onion instance, and then we're going to go to hunt. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to paste it right here, and then we're just going to press enter. Now I already did this, but now as you can see, here is that log that is here. And it's essentially the same log that is over here in CloudTrail. Ingesting CloudTrail was completely successful and you are good to go, which is fantastic. Congratulations. You have done a pretty difficult project. You have set up Security Onion within AWS. You've learned tons of different security things such as principle of least privilege, firewall rules, security groups, TCP dump, network traffic versus host traffic, what is HIDS, what is NIDS, and much, much more. Now, from this project, you can actually expand upon it. So as you saw in the Elastic Agent, there are tons of devices. You can play around with it. You could, so you could also run different types of attacks, and then you could analyze it within Security Onion. There are many, many open source tools out there that can help you do this, such as, I believe it's MITRE Red Team tools. You can also do detection engineering, which you can do with Sigma, which can let me know below if you're having any issues. I can't 100% say that I will get back to them, but maybe someone else will. This is just building out a security operation center. Now, this is one piece of a very large piece of cybersecurity. So if you're interested in upgrading your cybersecurity skills to a higher level and want to learn cybersecurity strategy, I do have a completely free training below that gets you out of the technical implementation details and more into strategy. So make sure to check that out below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.